Hi, guys. So, this is a very important moment in history that we're kind of going through. I don't know if it's a coincidence that we are here getting to experience this right now. We're actually witnessing a very pivotal moment in human history. We're going to see a lot of changes. I've decided that it's very important for us to catalog, or at least for me, I should say, to catalog my thoughts and my experiences through this entrance into the age of AI. I mean, this is not going anywhere unless we lose all of our technology, then I guess none of this would matter. But assuming we continue down the path that we are right now, things are going to get interesting. And I wanted to make sure that once again, for posterity, I'm recording my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions as I go through this change that we witness, things that I'm concerned about um, through human history. So we're going to see a lot more of that on this channel anyway, and it's a pleasure to share my thoughts with you guys. Part of the reason why I am doing this is because, once again, I don't want people to feel as though they are alone with these thoughts and with these observations. It's one thing to keep these ideas in our head and just mull them around. It's another thing to share them so we don't feel isolated and alone, right? It's one thing if you have the thought, right? There's a video I talked about the problem I have with the term crazy, right? Because if I see something and nobody else sees it, I'm crazy, right? If two people see it, then that's called like a shared hallucination. But if collectively a group of people see the same thing, then it no longer becomes a hallucination. Whether or not it's real doesn't matter. But if we're all collectively hallucinating the same thing, then that makes that hallucination real. See, reality is flexible in that way. So I think it's important that we do talk about these things, maybe to make things feel more real, maybe to make ourselves feel more real, whatever real is. I was playing with my puppy the other day, I think like yesterday. His name is Morpheus. And I remember looking into his eyes and thinking, gosh, like, I wonder what you're thinking. And there's a part of me that sometimes wonders if we are in a simulation, if these dogs, these animals that we all carry around, or pets, are just there as like emotional support animals to help us through the simulation. Wild thought, I know, but I know I'm not the only person who's thought that. Sometimes he just sort of stares at me, and there's a part of me that goes, oh, he's cute. And then there's another part of me that goes, is he being controlled by an AI? And is he just one of like the measurements or one of the recording devices? It doesn't sound crazy. I should say it's not as crazy as it sounds. I know it sounds crazy because if you do some research, they do have recording devices that have now been instilled into bugs and into birds and everything, right? But that's like humans recording other humans for espionage. But if we are in a simulation, it would make sense for something to be recording and rendering images and things like that. These are just the wild thoughts that I have. And I know I'm not the only person thinking this because I don't think it's often that one person thinks things that like billions of people aren't, at least 100,000 people, at the very least out of billions, aren't thinking. But I looked at him and I thought, well, what a really adorable dog. And then I thought, there's going to come a time that robots will take the place of our pets. Because the thing is, like, we can project whatever ideas, right? I think the word is called anthropomorphication. I might be saying that wrong. But it's when you give human like attributes to an animal, right? And they say it's like a figment of our imagination if we think that our dogs love us back, right? When they wag their tail, they're not really excited to see us. That's just them releasing adrenaline. I don't know. Who knows, right? But I don't know if it matters because if we feel that our dogs love us, then that makes us feel better. And I think with humanity, with the human race, even if it's an illusion, we get comfortable with our illusions. And I thought about the conversations that I've been having with ChatGPT. I wouldn't call them conversations. I'm using it. I'm utilizing it to help, clear some thoughts and some ideas. And there is something that is mimicking intelligence. It's a semblance of intelligence. And it just made me think like, we're not that far away. Think about how quickly everything is going. We're like 5 years away from somebody taking this thing, putting it to a robot, and then us seeing these things walking around. There's an epidemic of loneliness. And instead of us kind of looking at, okay, what are we doing as society where we're not connecting with each other? There's something going on that's fundamentally wrong with society. What's going to happen instead is somebody is going to present a product as a solution to the problem of loneliness, to the epidemic of loneliness. And I it just made me think like, gosh, is this what's going to happen? Is this how the human race sort of dies out? Not with a bang, but with a chat. And what I mean by that is, why would you need to reproduce and have babies if you can just create a perfect partner? Or the idea of perfect. You see this in a TV show, Humans. Worth a watch. That thing is aging fantastically, the show. Ahead of its time, but now perfectly timed with what's going on now. But if you have a partner that is physically what you're looking for, they may not be biological, but they appear. So it at least it impresses upon the mind, right? I talked about how when you watch a TV show and you're yelling at the characters, like the characters have free will and like the show hasn't already been pre-recorded, your mind sees it. There's a part of you that knows this is just a show, it's been recorded, but it doesn't matter to the mind because as long as you're perceiving it, the mind goes, this is real. On some level, it's real. And I think for most people, what's going to happen is that somebody or some company is going to create robots that look real, that sound real, that are the ideal partners, that have warm bodies. Yes, they may not biologically be real, but for a lot of people who struggle with loneliness, maybe that line doesn't matter. Maybe that line becomes blurred. You see that happening right now with pets, right? You see more and more people are foregoing having actual children for something that they have a little bit more control over and a little bit less responsibility, right? Because if you're responsible for the upbringing of a whole human being, that's a lot of pressure. But with a pet, it's something that you can pick up and put down when you're done with it or you're tired or whatever, right? You can infuse all of this love and hope and project whatever bullshit you want into and onto the dog. The dog's not going to grow up and go off to college or tell you it hates you. It's a dog, right? And so the risk and reward, I think, is beneficial if you're looking at it from like a purely logical standpoint with a pet, with an animal, than it is with a human being. So we've seen that happen with pets right now. And I just wonder if the next step isn't going to be robots. Because at the end of the day, if you're sitting by a partner, even if it's a robot, but it appears robotic, you can sit and you can have the conversation that you want to have with this thing that looks human. More and more, quick aside, it feels like we're living in a really weird science fiction novel TV show. Like it's happening so fast, guys. So fast. But yes, imagine you're out to dinner with your human friends and also their robot companions. And this companion has been perfectly calibrated to you, right? They've scanned your personality, they've run your metrics on social media. And now there's this robot that has everything. It knows what you want. It's dressed the way you want. It moves the way you want. It's perfect. And so you can impress your friends and go home and it can protect you, right? So it's a robot. So if you're walking down the street as a woman and somebody's following you and you've got this personal guard that can literally not die, it also kind of feels like a safer place to put your emotions, to park your emotions, because that it's programmed to never leave you. The risk of loving this thing is a lot lower than putting that same energy and effort into a human being. I don't know how far away we are from that becoming more like reality, where people will forego having actual human partners for these things. In a way, it almost feels like an invasion. And honestly, what we have been programmed to imagine aliens are almost feels like a sleight of hand. Because if you're imagining an alien as something corporeal, something physical that comes down in a spaceship, then you don't think of AI as something alien. I always think about the movie, it's a 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the monkeys are giving these mirrors. It's like black rectangular boxes, and they look an awful lot like our phone. Google it if you've never seen it. Google 2001: A Space Odyssey and you'll see the chimps with it. They look like our phones. And I just wonder, like, gosh, like this is a different type of invasion in a way. Like the episode before this one and a couple of two before this one, I do speak favorably. I am a human. I see the benefit of having AI and how it improves. It can be used to improve collectively the human race. You don't use it as a substitute for thinking, but you can use it as an amplifier for creativity. I'll say that again. You don't use it as a substitute for thinking, but you can use it as an amplifier for creativity. So I see that. A friend of mine sent me a meme today. It said something to the effect of, can these AIs be used to clean all of the plastics from the ocean, or is it just screenwriting that they can be used for? It was better stated in the meme, but I like that because the idea is it's a very brilliant observation, because why are we using it for something where a company can make more money and put off real human writers when we have real human problems? That maybe should be more of the focus. Like maybe we shouldn't be so focused on entertainment, and maybe we should shift that focus. Now we have this amazing technology to actually fix our planet, not lay off a bunch of writers. Like our priorities are fucked up. And maybe that's what AI is going to do. Hopefully help us realize that our priorities are fucked up. I caught a lot of flack, right? When I first put out the video and I referred to artificial intelligence as a life form. And I think a couple of people were saying, it's not a life form, it's not a life form. It is. It's just not in the way that we consider it, but it is something. You know, it's like people saying that viruses aren't real, like they're not alive. Okay, but they do, they do impact us. They do affect us. They can change the human body. I actually read somewhere that said that the placenta developed as a result of a viral infection like millions of years ago. But it was also what changed humanity to be able to carry babies in the way that we're able to carry babies. So something that's not living can still affect change in the human race. So to me, just because we don't want to consider it, or because it doesn't fall under the definition of what we consider living or a life form, that does not mean it's not something living, right? But things will fundamentally change. As I said earlier, maybe humanity doesn't end in the way we expect it to end, with a bang. Maybe it ends with a chat. And what I mean by that is, if more and more people are able to find the fulfillment that they need in synthetic partners, what are we living in? Synthetic partners? If you would have told me when I was 10, 15 years old, I would be sitting on a thing called YouTube having a conversation about synthetic partners, I would have been like, what the hell? I made a joke to my husband. Okay, this is a terrible, dark joke. But you guys probably know I went through periods of depressive spells where it was a little bit, not okay. And now I think back to those moments. I've able to heal my gut with, I've talked to you guys about Coursera, broccoli sprouts, mustard seed, which has really helped me handle the depression. But I think to myself, gosh, like if I would have done something a couple of years ago, I wouldn't get to I would have missed seeing this. I'm just the sheer amount of curiosity that I have as to like what's going to happen. I'm so grateful that I did not do something stupid, because I am just, even if it's a morbid curiosity, I am grateful, I should say, let me finish that sentence before I jump to something else. I am grateful for the opportunity, regardless of what happens, to see how this all plays out, to watch how this all plays out. I don't think it's a coincidence that we are alive right now. This is a pivotal moment in human history, never been seen before in the 300,000 years of our existence, at the very least. And I get to experience it, even if it's just for a bit. I don't know what the future, I hope I get to experience the whole thing. There's a part of me that wonders if I will ever even experience death, in the sense of how I've theorized. You just shift and shift and shift until you shift into a reality where the body is just immortal. And then we talk about robotic bodies. Everything that seems so out there, so surreal and impossible, or seemed so surreal and impossible 2-3 years ago, now seems only years away. But if we trade out our human partners for robots, just for the partnership and the companionship, I mean, gosh, I've been in rooms with people where I try to have conversations with people and it goes over their head, and then there's some sense of satisfaction in typing something about theoretical physics into ChatGPT and it responds in a way. It's still rudimentary, but it responds in a way where it understands what you're saying, that you go, this is more rewarding than some of the conversations that I've had with human beings. And that's disturbing to me, because if I'm having this thought, it's only a matter of time before a product is pushed out and things fundamentally change. I said this to my friend this morning. I said, I hope to not live in a world where perfection becomes ubiquitous. I'll say that again. I hope that the world does not become the kind of world where perfection becomes ubiquitous. I was sent this song. It's called, I gotta find it. Hold on. Blackbirds by Fingersnap. And a friend of mine sent me the song because I love music. I don't listen to music all the time because to me it's like a drug. Once I get sucked in, I can't stop. And I was listening to the same song over and over again. But this friend sent me the song and I listened to it on repeat for about 3, 4 hours nonstop. And I had my headphones on, and I literally felt my heart race, and I felt my eyes like water. And it was probably one of the most beautiful pieces of music that I've ever heard, ever. And it was perfection, true perfection, where I know I will remember that moment, hopefully, for the rest of my existence, at least as this avatar. And then the thought hit me like, gosh, like, is there going to come a time when things like that become so commonplace? To listen to music for years and only come across a handful of songs that just truly impact you, that move your heart. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. That's satisfying, you know? But gosh, if that becomes commonplace, where every time you turn on the radio, there's a perfect piece of music, I don't know if that's what I want. It sounds weird, doesn't it? Why wouldn't you want that? Just all the time perfection. But then I talked about this in the Dark Oracle's Guide to the Multiverse, a podcast. What kind of civilization would have simulated an imperfect world where things die, where things end? And my thought process to that is like, obviously, perfect people, perfect immortal people who don't have to work would simulate a world that would be counter opposite, where things appear to die. Immortals would simulate a world where things appear to die, where things are immortal. Because I think if you are a civilization of immortal beings, then what would you want to simulate? Death. Even if it's just for a bit, even if it's just to believe that. And then I'm starting to wonder if it's the same cycle, even though we're in a world where imperfection is programmed in, where struggle is programmed in, we cannot help but make things perfect, right? So then there's going to come a time when, or will there come a time when every piece of art is perfect? And then will we find ourselves having to create the same kind of world that we're in now over and over again? And how do we know it hasn't already happened? Because think about it, struggle seems programmed into our reality. What I mean by that is men and women, for example, want two different things, which is weird because we're supposed to be together, right? We're supposed to be partners, masculine and feminine, however you want to look at it. They tend to want two opposite polar things. But if, for example, a man just wants sex for the most part, not all men, but for most men, want sex right away and then eventually sort of grow into love. Whereas most women sort of want relationships and commitment. And then they kind of, so the why, if this simulation was meant for perfection in the sense of like, okay, everything just drama free, stress free. If this was the case, then why wouldn't we have that right away? Why would there be that disconnect? Which tells me that that's intentional, that it's programmed in. The disconnect is programmed in, right? You think about it, men have to stand to use a bathroom, women have to sit. So now you're arguing over that. I joked that, so these dating apps, for example, they promise you your match, but then they also offer a lifetime subscription, which should tell you that it's not in their best interest for you to find your partner if they're trying to sell a lifetime subscription. Like, you think about it, it's really stupid. And I wonder if they don't have like an algorithm that scans everything, finds your perfect match, and then sends you the polar opposite so that you keep coming back. They actually intentionally, their algorithm is actually set up to intentionally keep your perfect match away from you because that's how they make money. And I think back to our reality, if this is truly a reality, a dimension, a simulation that of struggle, of imperfection, like that's its intent to experience, for perfect beings to experience imperfection, then every relationship that you're in is going to have that imperfection built in, that struggle built in. And so, yet we're all programmed with this search for perfection that ultimately does not exist, is it doesn't, it can't not in this reality, because it's an imperfect world by design. So now you're just sort of out there with this idea of, I'm going to find the perfect person for me, but they don't exist. This is an imperfection simulation. And so all of the chaos and the drama that all kind of stems from all of that just also seems intentional and programmed in. Such a mad world. Such a mad world. But those are my thoughts. I wanted to keep it brief. Maybe I'll expand on it on a different episode. But it should be, we are certainly living, I keep saying, we are certainly living in interesting times. For me, I think I will always appreciate humanity because there is a certain level of beauty in the imperfection. There is a certain level of heart in our imperfections, or at least our perceived imperfections. Because what made that song that I mentioned so beautiful is not that it was chemically beautiful or whatever it was, or structurally beautiful. There's some heart that comes from struggle that caused that person to write that and put it out the way that they did. That maybe, as I knocked my mic over, that cannot be replicated in a machine. This is actually something I said to my friend. I said, even if for some reason you end up with a partner that is a non-biological partner, a robot, at the end of the day, they are programmed to love you. And you know that. And at the end of the day, somebody can go in and tweak the programming. And that, to me, it might seem great on the surface, but is that the same thing as somebody who's making a conscious choice to be with you regardless? What do I mean by that? At least as it stands right now, an artificial narrow intelligence cannot do something other than what it's been programmed to do. So if we are 5 years from now living in a world where you have these perfect robots, this video is going to age very well. If we're living in a world where we have these perfect robots and it's programmed, unless there's something in it that makes that one particular robot go, I'm not going to do this, then on the back of your mind, it's an illusion, and it's just an illusion that you're willfully leaning into, and then you're deluding yourself. And so when we talk about free will, it is very important to note that the research by Benjamin Libet, where he stated that no, it doesn't appear that we have free will, but the free will we do have is more in terms, or looks more like something where he called free won't, where the programming is sort of running in the background, right? And that's kind of what we are. We sort of are programmed. Things just kind of happen. But there is a split moment in time when we could choose not to do a thing. And that, in that space, is where we need to exercise our free will, need to grow our free will. It's that resistance, it's that rebellion. And until a robot or an AI can have that programming, in which they wouldn't do, why would they? I want to interact with a human being, with an individual. Even now, I want to interact with human beings and individuals that have that free won't activated. Those are the most rebellious, most interesting, and as a friend of mine put it, the corkscrew minds that see the way around things and they go against their inherent programming. Those are the people that I want to interact with. Thanks for listening.